hearing Mohan, I just saw behind him that says we listen, we empathize, and we create, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's a very good definition, as Mohan said, like a mindset, right? The change mindset. For me, design thinking is more than a methodology, right? It's an approach, and actually it's a lifestyle as well. Maybe you read this book from Stanford, from the two professors about designing your life, and I think we can use design thinking very well for our life. I think maybe we have a lot of definition about design thinking, and right now I am trying to share with my company as what is not design thinking. Like design thinking is not a workshop, it's not an ideation session, right? So design thinking we can have different definitions, right? But I think I totally agree with Mohan. Is a change mindset.
Right. So essentially, I think all of us agree that design thinking is basically a way of life, really. And like you summed it very well, Alvaro. I, it's about the way we think and the way we actually approach a problem, like Tarun said. And obviously, with compassion is what, and empathy is what is needed. Good insights there. I think you're right, Alvaro. A lot of people here just talk about a session or two there to talk about innovation and design, but then it goes much more behind that. I'll pose this next question to you, Alvaro. You coming from Accenture, a large organization, and you already mentioned that you are talking to your organization and telling them that what is design thinking. Uh, what's the difference between a startup and a legacy organization? Role of culture in design innovation. How do you get the culture of innovation and thinking in a organization that is such large organization, which is from the CEO to the bottom trainee? How do they actually start thinking about problem solving, having empathy, having the respect for customer and being understanding to think differently?
Yeah. So we were Fjord with 600 people, and we were acquired by Accenture, 550,000 employees globally. So when they acquired Fjord, it was they feel like they needed to change their mindset, right? But it was a technology company. So one of the things they did, and I think was good, is like they try to empower us, right? But for us, it's very difficult as well because we need to change our mindset from technology-centered design to human-centered design, right? And so we need to work daily. One of the things we did was like to create a framework for all the organization how they can approach the problems. And we call it form. And form is like a kind of a methodology based on design thinking. And so we need daily to share our values as a designers, to work on the culture. How we do that? We work with 5 pillars actually inside Accenture. We work on a strategy. So from the CEO top bottom, Julie Sweet, she knew exactly what's the value of design. We work as well on the structure, right? How we can work with the different teams because we have four different areas. We have like technology, operation, and we have Accenture Interactive, and very interesting. We work on capabilities, and that's a very good thing related with the startups because I think we need to continue work with the agile process, right? About the resilience, right? And to share like how the problems we face, we need to take human-centered design. So I think we need on the even on the words we work on the teams, we need to all the time to say like, okay, what is not design thinking, as I mentioned before, what is exactly human-centered design, what is the balance between the human, the technology, right, the business, but how we start from the human perspective. So I think it's daily. And for example, one of the things We work with anthropologists, sociologists. So we say like we are designers because we are designing solution, right? And it's not like you have a bachelor degree in design like you are designer. So it's a lot of resilience, and I think it's like we need to create a framework and just to continue to be agile. That's my opinion.
Great. Actually, there was this question that did have, and that was after you touched upon a structure, a framework for design. And I had this question which I had for you guys, and the question is: design incremental or one big idea? Essentially, I think.
Rahul, could I add something to Alvaro's earlier question, if that's okay with you?
Please
just
go ahead.
Perhaps a few minutes. Look, I mean, I think I've been fortunate to work with a lot of startups, bigger companies, and then run my own company. And I feel, look, I mean, the question that you asked, is so pertinent in a way that we have to ask, why is that mismatch there? Like, why are we even talking about that? So I think the only difference, if you were to go back to the science concepts, is I think in bigger companies, the impedance or the entropy, of implementing, the design, generally what's called design by committee, because there are so many stakeholders that you have to get a buy-in from, that it just slows the process down, right? And then everyone, brings in their own viewpoints and perspectives in making a design decision. Whereas in startups and mid-sized companies like ours, right, those decisions we take those decisions like in hours or in days, or we just do a quick test and validate and come to some sort of a decision. That said, the second part to your question was how can bigger companies adopt that? That particular agility, that particular mindset that Alvaro also touched upon, too. Look, what I can share is what is working for a mid-sized company like ours. I'm not sure how would it work, with a 6,000 people company, but nonetheless, if those design decisions, have to have that agility, then everyone has to understand the design vernacular. Everyone has to understand that design makes everything possible in a way. So we start right from the interview stage. We make sure that there are enough design bones in people's body. Then we do, and so our teammates, I'm very lucky to have a very, senior design team, and some of the senior design team members take extensive boot camp in design thinking, design implementation, user experience, just to make sure that engineers understand it. And then we have got our own way of running, design sprints and retrospectives in which designers are brought in to see whether, whatever that vision was, if it's getting implemented the right way or not. I'm sure there could be other 100 solutions out there for a bigger company to run as fast as a young startup would in terms of design. But these are things, that are working for us. I just wanted to share that. Sorry about that.
That's brilliant. No, not at all. I mean, lovely. That was a brilliant add-on to what Alvaro. Manish, you want to add something there?
Sorry,
Mohan?
You want to add something there at this point in time, or I have on this?
No, we're good. I think it's only like both of them said. I completely agree with that. And more often we call it more when it is a larger organization like ours. Also, challenges is always how can design and engineering work together. So there is the concept of design-led engineering is the biggest challenge. The design has to lead because it takes lead in terms of what users are looking forward to. And then looking at that, so design-led engineering has to become the DNA of every organization. And it has to be a top-down approach. It can't be just like some designers trying to do, or a design agency, or a small team trying to push something. It has to be a top-level, C-level people committed to design, and they bring down the culture of co-creating, being collaborative geniuses than any siloed group that can do very well. So as long as we can kill that idea of siloed geniuses and bring in more collaborative geniuses that could work together, then both engineering and design will work together.
Yeah, and Apple is a great example. Sorry, I was just saying Apple is a great example of that, isn't it?
No, actually, I want to share. Last week, I was with some students, and I was talking about the example of our work, right? And they asked us, "You are showing me example of big companies, right? As Apple, and 95% of our clients are big companies. But I told them, like, sometimes we think like those big companies, like they have the budget, right? But the startup, they have the agility, and sometimes if they want to create something, and I know they're trying hard to have like innovation center lab at many things inside their company, but because they have a lot of process, and that's why when I talk about different pillars, I mean, it's not like a magic formula, right? But I think we need to create that agility and to show to those big organizations like innovation has a process, like we need to have a mindset, right? And I think that that's why we need to continuously to have this connection between a startup and a big company.
Right, super. So, I mean, that actually was bringing me to the next question, really. And you've answered a lot of, in part, we've answered that question, really. Basically, is design innovation one big idea, or it's an incremental process? I'll open it to every one of you. Add-on, whoever want to go first, just go ahead. Because people think the big moment, the big idea actually works mostly, which I don't know. I mean, I have my take on it, but I think I would like to hear from you guys. Yeah, who wants to go first? Mohan?
Yeah, I would say it's incremental. Just with the experiences that we have seen, there's nothing like one big idea that you can bring it one day and make it happen. It has to be an incremental, evolving strategy. And there's a nice book on this called the Three Box Strategy. I think it's Vijay Govindarajan has written it. So this three box is basically, if you have the one box, make sure what is working really well, we keep it up, we keep it going, and we maintain that without changing, without disrupting much, because it's doing perfectly right. And the second box is all about identifying what is not working and try to eliminate it over time. And the third box is something innovation that we could always bring it back to the first box and make it like a auto mode and autopiloted mode that it can function. So as long as the innovation is going on, it will feed back into the first box of what is doing well, and what is not doing well should come into the middle box and should have the path of exit to those things. So as long as everybody are in the mode of following these three boxes, then it really would make a total big difference on how this can be an incremental design change over a period. And design is not about design; it's about organization itself. It's about their products, services. It could be the whole organization's culture. It could be anything.
Right, interesting. Tarun, you want to go there?
Yeah, I think Mohan has summed up, my thought process as well. That said, I will definitely say there is, even if the first version of, I'm just coming from a startup perspective, right? Because we solve a lot of problems for venture-backed companies. Look, even if the first version that comes out, the MVP, even if people are embarrassed by it, it still has to solve a problem. Right. So I would say, at least, even in the first cut or in the first MVP, design has to make sense. The implementation has to make sense, because then the market is not going to give you a chance to incrementally, design it better. Think about it this way. When someone writes a book, right, and sends it to the publisher, if it doesn't resonate, and they're now going to put in an advance for someone to finish that book. Same thing works in movies as well. A script writer would narrate an entire plot to the director or actors and try to get the vibe back from them. When they say, yes, hey, this is an idea that we can get behind, that's the time the dialogue writing and the incremental things are done on that movie script. Same thing is with digital products as well. If the first version, the big upfront version, doesn't resonate with people, and if you're not able to get or achieve that product market fit, my sense is market is going to be very brutal, and it's not going to give you another chance. But as long as that makes sense, even if it was design wise or implementation, it was somewhat embarrassing, but it resonated somewhere, then of course, like Mohan said, you can keep on incrementing on it, and there are various techniques to do so. But I still feel the first version, at least the minimal viable product, has to be minimal lovable product as well. But there has to be some love, right?
Great. I have experiences on that, and and out of my personal failures as well. So the big idea,
mine too. Yeah.
Anyway, Alvaro, your turn, really. Your take on that.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I was at school, my professor, they talk a lot about the big idea, right? And I was really lucky when I started working. I started with an Indian company, Human Factors International, and I learned a lot with them because we were working on design in emerging countries. And I realized, and actually Mohan put it on the right way with the process, with the three boxes, like we need to go through the design incremental, right? And we need to learn from that, and then to have the feedback, and maybe we can have a big idea, right? But I think design is related with solve problems, and there are different ways to solve problems. And I think we need to talk from schools actually about the design incremental and how we can go step by step, and maybe sometimes we can have a big idea, right? But it's not like if you are doing just incremental, you're not doing innovation, right? Or if you are doing just big ideas, you are a very good inventor or innovator. So I think design incremental is the way we can continue and achieve a big idea.
Great. So interesting. So I was just talking about, like Tarun said, I had a lovely, brilliant idea. Think about Swiggy or Zomato before they launched almost 2 years back, and we invested in the company. The problem was we launched the product. It was MVP, not MLP in that sense, because we had no clue what we were doing. But we actually wanted to do a lot more. We had a big roadmap and we wanted to finish that. It never got done that way. Even if I look back at my plans at that point in time, what Swiggy and Zomato are doing, that was already there before them. The problem was implementation and iteration. We did not do that right. And I think implementation is a key when it comes to implementing or design thinking and design innovation. Incremental design is always the way to go. Great thoughts. All right, so let's come back to customers and digital. And that's for you, Mohan, and Tarun in some respects, and obviously you're open to Alvaro as well. But then, how does customer stated needs and unstated needs captured? Tarun already has briefly touched upon it, and but mostly people know that I want to eat food, but do I need to eat great food? Yes, I need to, but I want to eat say a pizza. That's stated. How do you actually really get to know what is unstated? People don't talk about that, and really capturing that sense of customer needs is critical. How do you do that, Mohan?
So typically, it's difficult. It's not that easy as we state, and that's why this whole design area is so niche, and people have need to have a lot of skills to go beyond what people are saying and doing. But it is also a lot of frameworks. So let me pick up one of the frameworks, which was my part of my learnings in Harvard. So this was Clayton Christensen was the professor, and he was teaching this about jobs to be done. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. So that really helps us define the stated and unstated needs of users. So when we look at jobs to be done, what is the type of experience that we are delivering, and how the integration of a lot of ecosystem, not just what is mentioning, not just what is talking about, or what we know about, what is the other ecosystem that needs to come together as a part of integrating that experience to be delivered. And there is one brand purpose for everything. So we shouldn't be missing that, as the brand purpose becomes the key. And when we say one job to be done, I mean, typically the example stated is, if you're trying to give a drilling machine, the purpose for the carpenter to buy is to drill a hole. And if we can put a speaker to it, a Bluetooth to it, and add many things to make it very jazzy and fun, very happily, we can keep adding features and functionalities. But that one job to be done is still drilling that hole. or IKEA's is DIY, do it yourself, is the one job to be done that they want to achieve in every product that they do. So everybody has that one job to be done. As long as we can focus on that one job to be done and have these tenets of the framework built around this, and then we will be able to find out the stated, unstated, and also of different category of personas trying to talk about this with differently. So obviously, we all know how the data gathering works and how different types of measurements we take. What metrics do we define to measure those experiences? Like, did we give him a fruit instead of a pizza? You will know by the expression automatically when we do a prototyping test. So, so there is few ways to really address this. On a bigger picture, job to be done is the best focus.
Brilliantly. Job to done.
I think
Mohan
has already answered very well the pre part. I mean, there's a pre and then there is a post. I think in pre part, that's exactly what we do as well, like the jobs to be done, the task flow analysis, and we try to marry them, blow them up, into different wireframes. What we do, just to add to that as well is, look at the analytics, because sometimes the users say that this was the job to be done and this is what they wanted, but sometimes that doesn't turn out to be the reality. And companies and designers could definitely use. I mean, there are frameworks out there. So one of the framework that we end up using is the Google's HEART framework, which is an acronym for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, or task success. So taking Mohan's example, if there was a job to be done, we can come up with some sort of a task success metric and really look at how people were navigating through that and what kind of problems were they having, right? So that we could piggyback or we could tie it back to the unstated needs. Stated, of course, gets through jobs to be done, and the unstated needs could easily be analyzed, dissected, and deliberated by looking at the analytics data, right? And then marrying it back to the requirements and see, hey, does this make sense? Have we designed a piece of garbage, or is it really helping the user? So, I mean, just to, if you were to take, what Mohan described in jobs to be done and really focus on the analytics part, I mean, I think, you could address, Rahul, what you were asking, both the stated and the unstated needs.
The point is, you're right. I mean, the question really is, you answered that very well, but unstated needs sometimes does not get captured in analytic data. But then the snippets of insights is something that I want to ask you.
I could just add to that. Look, sometimes you just need a lead, you need a scent, right?
Exactly.
So what analytics data, what it provides is the quantitative data set as to what is happening. But of course, the qualitative, why is it happening? You would have to go back to the users and ask them. But at least it gives you a starting point to start that, hey, listen, maybe perhaps we did not, this was an unstated need, and I think we really didn't solve it very well. Something like that.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I was looking for that.
Sure.
That's right, great. Alvaro, you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I want to share my point of view on that, because we work closely with inside Accenture. We have the data analytics big power, like they gave a lot of data, right? But I'm, because I start working more, as Mohan said, and I really follow the jobs to be done, and I all the time I talk inside, actually, and with my clients, is like, which company has more data? Like, for example, Google, right? Or Facebook. And I work with them, and they have a lot of data, but they hire us because they want to deeply understand what is happening with those data. When we go there and we see, and as Mohan said, like, we need just not to ask, right? We need to observe. It's a hard work to have those and meet needs, and to cross, as said Tarun, like, okay, we need to cross with the data we have. Like yesterday, we were talking with a big airline company, and they say, right now in the post-COVID, they are showing me all this data. Like last year, it was maybe, I don't know, 800,000 visits on their website in September. And right now it's like 50,000. And they say, but right now we can see the passengers flying, etc. But I say, like, but do you know exactly how they're thinking right now? You know, what is the mindset related with the COVID? What is the expectation? Why is they trying to see what is future right now for them? Because future before the COVID was maybe 2 months. And actually, I'm from Colombia, South America, like India, very very similar. Like people don't look for 1 year, right? Like other countries, right? Like other cultures. So we need to understand very well that things, and that's why I totally follow ethnographic approach. Like we need to go deeply. We need to be with the people. We need to use diaries. And as said Tarun, we are right now on the we need we have the technology. It's a tool, right? And we have the data. So let's take the data. So for us, it's like, okay, we take the data, we take the trends, but we need to focus on this deep understanding of the needs of people.
Super. So, and you're right. There's no shortcut to not speaking to customers and people. And like Mohan said, empathy is critical. Getting that take back from what they're saying, what they're thinking, and sometimes people don't say that, but they mean that. Understanding and getting those insights back is something which is, I think, very important when it comes to that. Yeah, great. I don't know how much time we have. I think we've got some time. All right. So, coming back to where we were, it's actually digital design. We are at the fourth industrial revolution, really, if I was to put it that way. Agriculture, industrial, whatever. So, where are we? How do you design for future when it comes to digital, where everything is on your mobile or on your screens? You don't know the customer. I mean, I could be one anonymous person who could just come on your website or your mobile, and I could be one of your biggest buyers, potentially bigger buyers. How do you design for the interaction there? What are the needs there? Who wants to take it? Mohan, Tarun, Alvaro, who wants to go first can go first. Mohan?
Sure. All right. So for the fourth industrial revolution, I think revolutions keep happening, the industries keep growing. And we have seen companies which have lived in the top Fortune 500 when in 1955. And if you compare that list to today's, probably the last few years back, the list, there's only about 52 companies survived. So we can look at both ways, what really worked for them and what did not work for the rest. So everybody, for every resolution, every revolution that happens in the industry, the companies have to keep fighting for their fit, to survive, to be the fittest. So the survival will only be for the fittest, and the digital Darwinism is the only way to go. It's like one of the favorite lines that I always use. The digital Darwinism. We've done some webinar series on that as well. So digital Darwinism, if you look at it on every industry aspects, every industry can survive only ones who have the best way of creative destruction. When I say creative destruction, it is destroying something which is not and creatively adding something which is good. So it creates more than it destroys. So it's creatively destructing something is very important in this era. And if it's massively changing with COVID, and it may change to something else tomorrow. But as long as we keep our digital Darwinism going on with creative destruction on the play, then there is somebody always losing out, and they're losing out because of somebody else doing something better than them.
All right, Tarun, you want to add to that?
Yeah, from my perspective, I don't, think that this needs, like a different approach, because, the example that you took, how do you really design for that unique visitor or that anonymous visitor that might come and download your app or visit your website or something like that. Look, a product, a digital product out there cannot be everything for everyone. It is solving a problem for a certain set of personas. And if that user research was done right, if the jobs to be done framework was created well, then of course, I think, there will be good answers in that design. But if we were trying to be, something for everyone, or we were trying to solve every person's problem, then we'll be nobody, right? Then we will not be solving that problem well. So I think it's best to understand your persona. It's best to understand your user segment whom you're trying to solve for, and then just solve for them well, right? So that's what I think. And it's true now. I think it will be true 20 years from now too.
I won't ask Alvaro this one. You're running short of time, I believe. My alarm went off. But then I have one very important question for you, Alvaro. Really, I think everyone has faced that, and I love them personally. How do you learn from them? How do you learn from design failures and pivot?
Well, I think we learn a lot from school, like how important is failure, right? And we know it's very important, but it looks like it's very difficult sometimes for the organization. Like we need to create those spaces, and we need to create spaces for experimentation and failure. And how we need to do that, for example, in our way to work, right? To have the space between our teams to learn from those failures. So, for example, we use a lot about templates used to use when we are doing co-creation sessions, like what we learn. And the big example is like Apple, right? We know a lot about the success of Apple products, but not many people knows about all the failures that they have before. Like many products, like they use a game for patent for the iPad, etc. So I think is we need to try hard to have those spaces, like to have spaces for learn and to know exactly what we learn from failure and what is important failure. So I think it's a hard task and we need to do daily.
So adding to that question essentially is how important is it to have a buy-in from the C level management to accept failure?
Yeah, and that's a very good one because they all the time they're seeing like it's a business, right? And we are putting some time there, and I want a result. And maybe when Tarun talk about the minimum lovable product, right? So how we can just check about this very iterative process, and maybe the best way is to show to them how we learn from failure, right? On a big project, like, okay, look, it's not like the perfectly nice picture of the project. Like, look, on the first phase, we try to do that. And for example, Mohan, we say like we go to interview people. So this is very iterative, right? Maybe we have a participant like I mean, it was not a good interview, right? But I mean, it's better to show the real picture to the C level, right? And not the nice picture. Like, okay, look, it was the plan was like this, but the reality was really like this, and then we achieved the project. So how important is that on the project? I think we need to be very honest and to show the learnings.
Guys,
I could
all
add a
right,
practical
super.
example. I could add a practical example from Netflix, exactly what just Alvaro, described. I don't know if I would have the name right or not, but it's Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix, calls it, sunlighting or spotlighting. Anytime there is a failure, in the company, first of all, any project that you take, you divide it into series of steps, into small experiments. And if your experiment was to fail, you have to let everyone know, all the stakeholders, what was the failure in the company. You have to put a spotlight, on that failure. That is absolutely required. And that's how they're able to do it. So Alvaro, what you were just saying, Netflix does it, in their culture.
Guys, great, interesting. I mean, the culture, obviously, when it comes to failure, is what I was looking to answer. We don't have time left, I believe. I think it's only 1 minute or 2 minutes left. So just a quick one-liner or two-liner from each one of you as closing remarks. I'm not adding in any the last two questions that I had. So let's go from Tarun. You're closing whatever you want to add at the end of the session. And maybe we can have one question or two questions if it's available. Yeah? Okay.
Nothing to add. I just want to say thank you. I think I was taking notes. I definitely learned, a few things. And Rahul, thank you for asking, such insightful questions. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Alvaro, you want to go or whatever you want to add at this point in time? Something last 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you very much for this conversation. I learned a lot about with Tarun, Mohan, and it was nice to meet you. And I just want to share, maybe when we talk about design innovation experience, all the time I say, like, let's take those books from Yuval Noah, like Sapiens, because those books we learn a lot about. We face more problems, but remember, we are humans, right? And we need to understand humans' problems.
Brilliant. Mohan?
Yeah, thanks, Rahul, for all the questions. Great session, and likewise, great learning from all of you. To see these specialists working in different areas and understanding and learning from them is always great. And thank you all for this. In just closing, it's always there are products and services available at discount all the time. And as designers, we should only focus on experience at a premium, because that's what the world needs. Designers are taking a bigger seat in the management. There are CXO roles. There are very experienced design officers and CDOs, all of the bigger roles. That roles are only to make sure that the world is dominated as a gatekeeper from by the designers, and not allowing technology to overkill and take over human beings' life. So we are here to really safeguard the human emotions and take care of the empathies of them, and give exactly what they need, and not we are here to do that job.
Good. Thank you. I think on my end, thank you guys for having me talk to you today. It was absolutely delight, Mohan, Alvaro, Tarun. Thank you for that. My summing up is that I think if we actually have that, when we talk about the design thinking and failure is ability to fail, I guess a lot of things will fall into place. And as designers, I think we design really for the world. We've designed the future for our generation. So great. Thank you so much. And it's over to you, Nishta.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank all of our speakers who made this discussion super exciting. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to you. Special thanks to our attendees for joining. Also to our sponsors, Human Factors International, Adobe, Facebook, UNICEF, Catalonia Trade and Investment, Litmus Inc. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.